everybody, this is Emily and Joey from Hearth and Harvest, and we're here to talk to you today a little bit about harvesting honey. And honey and beekeeping is a really important part of our practice here at our farm. Many of the products that we make for sale at the Interlochen Farmers Market, or you can find us online, come from things that deal with our bees and our beehives. So I thought I'd show you a little bit about that here today. One product that we get is beeswax, and it's really hard. It comes right from our beehives. It's quite brittle, but beeswax is super useful for a lot of different things. But in our products, you'll find that we use beeswax in our natural lip balms. It's one of our 3 main ingredients, and it gives the lip balm its hardness. It also has some SPF to it, and we also make a line of different salves, and they all have 1/4 part beeswax. So beeswax is super important to our products. And then of course we also make honey. Our honey is delicious and amazing, and we also use our raw honey. Many people might not know, but honey has amazing skin properties, or skin healing properties, so we also use it raw honey, unprocessed, unpasteurized, right in our lotions as well. I thought you might like to see where our honey comes from, so we're going to take a quick walk over to our apiary and I'll show you what that looks like. So this is our apiary, and that's a fancy word I guess for a bee yard. You can see our boxes there. They have rocks on top to help keep the lids down and keep some predators out. They're also elevated by cinder blocks, which helps keep mice out. The 2 bottom boxes on each hive, you'll see that they're bigger. Those contain the brood, which are the baby bees, and that's generally where our queen is in each hive has a queen, and she's somewhere down in those brood chambers. And then the skinnier boxes on the top are called honey supers. Some of them have 2 honey supers, some of them have 1 honey super. It depends on how strong the hive is at this point in the year. It is the end of July here in northern Michigan, and we've pulled off our first honey crop for the year. We've only got 11 frames. 9 came from hive 1 and 2 came from hive 4, and those are the 2 strongest hives right now. The bees are having a really amazing honey flow right now, or nectar flow, and most of that is coming from this purple flower right here, which is called star thistle, or also known as knapweed. It is toxic to horses, amazingly, but our honeybees absolutely love it. It is a noxious invasive species here to northern Michigan, but our honeybees go crazy over it, so I don't have the heart to rip it out here. But you can see we have just a large pasture full of these purple weeds, so we keep them for the honeybees. You may have seen this star thistle around your property or in the ditches. They are really prevalent here in northern Michigan, but this is what most of our honey is, at least this time of the year, because of the massive pollen flow. But that is the star thistle, and our honeybees are right here, and my garden is right here, and the house is right there. And it's no coincidence that my garden is so close to my honeybees. They do a great job pollinating, and they really help my plants take off, so it's wonderful to have them there. That said, it's also a little bit crazy because this is probably our 5th year raising honeybees, and I've been stung dozens of times. It happens to the best of us. It's just a hazard of the job. No, it doesn't hurt bad. It hurts, but not bad. Last May in 2015, when my husband was capturing a swarm of honeybees that had outgrown their hive, I was standing off a short way, and one honeybee, was probably one of the guard bees, saw me, woo, grasshopper just hit me, saw me, and it landed in my hair, and I think its feet got stuck in my hair, and it panicked and it stung me on the head, and I got stung. And unlike all the other times, this time I actually broke out in anaphylactic shock, had to be rushed to the emergency room, and long story short, I am super allergic to honeybees now, and my allergist said I have to carry at least 4 EpiPens everywhere I go. So if that tells you anything about how much I love bees and how important they are to us and our family and our farm, I still go out to my garden every day. I work the garden, and unfortunately my husband has to do most of the beekeeping now, but I advise and help from afar and keep books, and we keep notes on each hive and their progress. So we still love them, and I'm not willing to give them up. I've done some pretty intensive allergy immunotherapy for honeybee venom. I still have to get monthly shots and injections, but it's worth it if it means I won't die and we can still keep honeybees, right? Here are some of the frames of honey that we pulled off out of the honey super. And I just did one a minute ago, but here's one now. You can see all the honey cells, which are shaped as a hexagon, are capped with wax. So they're protected. And when you pull a honey frame, you want to see that all those cells are capped with wax. And it's okay if there's a little piece that's not. But it should look that way on both sides. Nice and fat with honey. That looks awesome. Of course I'm trying to do this with one hand, but that's our little uncapper, and it's just like a fork. And what it does is, oh, sorry, bear with me here. It uncaps those honey cells, so you can see the honey actually flowing down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to scrape all those pieces of wax off, just real gently. You don't need to dig in very deep, and we'll get ready for the next step of extraction. What you can see now are both sides completely scraped, just like that. That dark part is just some older comb, and the lighter yellow is just newer comb, but it all makes delicious honey. And now we're going to put it in the extractor. Okay, so this is an 18 frame extractor, and you can see that there's little notches, and that's where the frames go. This one's here. You don't have to load it with 18 frames at a time, but if you don't, you want to make sure that they're evenly distributed so that when the centrifuge starts going, that it's balanced, because each of these frames are, well, probably about 7-8 pounds, so you want to make sure they're balanced on all sides. And you can see I have 4 in there right now. I'm going to keep going. This kind of weird, gross looking stuff is really just nothing but honey and the wax cappings. We save it, and the honey drips down through a mesh screen, and then we'll filter it again. We keep the wax separate, and then we'll melt the wax down, and we can sell the wax or use the wax. We use wax in some of our Bath & Body products, and then the leftover honey you can save as well. Alright, so I have 11 frames of honey, and they are all evenly distributed in here as best that I could. We'll close the top. Oops. Don't want to pinch it forward. Close the top. What you'll hear is the honey kind of smacking the sides. It'll sound like rain on a roof. Tip, 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 tip. You'll hear that as we turn the centrifuge on. We'll start slowly, and then slowly build up speed. And that like pitter patter is actually the honey spinning out of the frames. So we'll give this a few minutes, probably 10-15 minutes in the centrifuge. I'll keep turning the speed up a little bit and do my best to brace it down because it's a little uneven, but we'll go from there. And this is our first honey harvest this year. It is the end of July, and they filled their bottom 2 brood chambers, so we're able to harvest some of the honey off the top. Okay, so I just put these through the extraction process and through the centrifuge here for about 10 minutes. It actually didn't take really very long. and what you can see are all of the cells. They're glossy from the honey, but they're empty. There's no honey in there. The honey is actually all down there, and that looks kind of gross and dark, but you'll see it better here in a second when I open up the door. So now we're going to begin the filtration process, and we'll put the frames back into one of the honey super boxes, and we'll get ready for some honey. Okay, so down here we have a clean food safe 5-gallon bucket, and then I'm running 2 mesh screens. One is a little more coarse and the top one is a little more fine, and the debris you see in there is just wax from the last harvest. We'll open up the honey door and the honey will come pouring out. And all we're going to do to filter this is run it through these 2 mesh filters. We don't heat it to pasteurize it or anything like that. And there's the honey. It's beautiful. It looks really great. And as it runs through the screens, it'll fill into the bucket. And there it's starting to go into the bucket with beautiful raw honey. All those wax cappings, we want to save those because we can melt them down and reuse the wax. So we try to be as mindful and resourceful of all of the harvest that we take as possible. We'll take these frames back out to the bees once we're done here, and the bees will go nuts over the honey. And what's also really cool is when you don't damage the comb very much, like look at that, that's almost perfect comb. When you don't damage the comb, then the bees can go in. They don't have to rebuild the comb. They can go in and they can just put honey in right away. So you've already given them, it's called drawn out comb. We've already given them a foundation with comb that they've built, and they can just start filling it up again. So it's a win-win. They get excited to have this back because it's full of honey taste. And then they can start building honey quicker because they don't have to spend their time rebuilding comb again. You can see the honey better now in the extractor now that the frames are removed. And it'll go out the little floodgate, and when we're done, we'll actually take the extractor right out to the beehives. We'll open it up and we'll let the bees finish off whatever is left in here. They do an amazing job cleaning things out. It's a great way to make sure none of the honey goes to waste, and they leave it back to us pretty clean. So I'll give it a few minutes or a few hours down at the beehives when we're done here, and then we'll also take over these honey supers that we just extracted the honey from. Well, we are winding down the honey extraction. The extractor is just about clean from the honey, and there are just a few wax casings left in here, so we'll let the honey drip through those, and then we'll call this a honey crop, a honey harvest. You can see out of our 5-gallon bucket we have probably 3.5 gallons of honey, which is great considering that came from only 4 frames. So I'm sorry, 11 frames. So yeah, that's a pretty good honey crop, especially for the end of July here in northern Michigan. Alrighty. Well, we've bottled her up, and here we have raw honey. Delicious, amazing, nature made. Doesn't get any better than that. So I hope you've enjoyed our little journey learning about honey and the honey extraction process and where it comes from. Thanks for joining us. Star thistle to the beautiful honey. Take care, everybody. Enjoy your honey. Come see us at the Interlochen Farmers Market. Say bye, Joey. You say bye-bye? There you go. Bye-bye.